Den of Thieves 2 Pantera once again stars Gerard Butler and O'Shea Jackson Jr. returns. And here, Big Nick is back on the hunt in Europe and closing in on Donnie, who is embroiled in the treacherous world of diamond thieves and the infamous Panther Mafia, as they plot a massive heist of the world's largest diamond exchange. The first Den of Thieves was surprisingly actually really fun. I just kind of had this conflict with it because it was basically Heat, and I couldn't overlook that. It was still a really well-made movie, though, and has always been a fun Heat light that I can go to if I really feel like it. And with Gerard Butler basically guaranteeing a certain amount of box office with all of his movies, I'm not surprised that they made Den of Thieves 2. So it's January. When it comes to movies, we're in the thick of it. Last January, Gerard Butler had a movie called Plane that really surprised me, and that was actually kind of good. And this January, he's got Den of Thieves 2, which really surprised me and is actually kind of good. Gerard Butler is becoming a January king, like Liam Neeson of old, when he would come out with a movie like in January or February, whether it was Taken, Unknown, The Commuter, or Non-Stop. Gerard Butler is getting into those vibes, and he's doing a good job of it. He's great as this character. It suits him perfectly. He is 100% meshed with this guy in such a way that I cannot imagine somebody else playing him. But also he shares great chemistry with O'Shea Jackson Jr., who returns once again from the first, and this time we see both of these characters team up for this heist. Now, what I do want to say is a word of warning. The trailers for this movie are marketing it very action heavy. The first film did have a lot of action, quite a bit of gunfights. It felt, like I said, like Heat. It had a heist, but it had a lot of action. This film is more of a traditional heist movie, in the vein of something like The Bank Job with Jason Statham, or the film Heist with Gene Hackman. If you go to this movie looking specifically for action, you might be disappointed because this is a heist movie about characters trying to pull something off that feels impossible. It doesn't quite have the comedy of something like Ocean's 11, but it does have a lot of the same grit that the first one had. Most all of the camera work is handheld. He focuses quite often on insignificant characters doing insignificant things, whether it's a security guard checking a camera or someone loading up a magazine that you might never see again, specifically that person, or someone putting something in a trunk, or random citizens on the street smoking, to really give you a sense of the environment and the atmosphere, the way a great horror director creates atmosphere with scares and tension. He's done really well with both of his films in creating atmosphere around a city or the vibe of the location and really getting a sense that you are there. And the various locations that this film utilizes did actually create the sense of travel that you sometimes feel in like a James Bond movie, but at a much smaller budget. And I'll admit, for the heist itself, I was actually on the edge of my seat. It was really riveting. But I will also say that this movie is very, very, very long. IMDb says it's 2 hours and 24 minutes. The first film was 2:20, so it's a couple minutes longer. But since there is less action, and it is a lot of planning, and also a lot of wondering exactly whose side Gerard Butler is on. Is he really going to be a cop and arrest these guys, or is he really going to be working with them? And so there's a little bit of that going on. You're not entirely sure, and that intrigue definitely adds something to the film. But there is a great deal of planning and waiting and scoping things out, and I could totally see people checking out and maybe even snoozing a little bit because it is a very, very long film. And especially if you're going into it expecting some sort of John Wick level experience, you're not going to get that. This is not that type of movie. There's also one or two moments in the movie that feel very convenient and extremely coincidental. There's some people that show up on a hilltop that snipe some folks, and I just have no idea how they knew to be where they are. It's magical. It was some teleportation level shit. Didn't really work for me. There's aspects of that in the film where things are a bit convenient and you're like, yeah, I don't think that would have happened that way, but it happened that way because this is a movie. But where this movie really needs to work is the chemistry of its two leads and the heist itself. And those things are great. In fact, there's a really good scene with these guys outside of a diner in the middle of the night, and they both talk about their past. And it's long. It's a very long dialogue scene. So long that I was impressed. And they both have really good stories about why they do what they do. That's something about this movie that I walked away from really thinking about a lot. The fact that we just don't get as many sequences like that in films where characters are just talking, sitting down. Everything is so fast now, and can we get to this and can we get to that? And this film is really content to just kind of sit and be a 2.5-hour heist movie. And even though I just got done saying that it does drag at times, I also really appreciated it for that, because you just don't see too many films that are that focused on its characters. This is not going to be considered one of the best heist movies ever made or anything, but if you were the type of person who watched movies on TNT a lot in the afternoon, this is that. This is exactly that. And for a January release, it's definitely above the pack. It's better than most I've seen. So far. In fact, similar to last January, actually, not terrible so far. I'm reserving. We got Wolfman coming out. I'm reserving judgment, but this January so far has been okay. And lastly, I just want to say that if anybody watching this is dealing with the wildfires that have broken out in California, I'm thinking about you guys. I have friends who have been evacuated. I've been talking to them, and it's very frightening. And I just want to let you know that I am thinking about you. I've left a link for some resources in the description below that can hopefully aid people who need that aid right now. For everyone who is dealing with that situation, I really hope that it's contained as soon as possible. I'm thinking about you guys. So, switching gears, if you have seen this film, I'm curious to know what you think of it, and if there are any other January releases you're looking forward to, like Wolfman coming out. Thank you guys so much, as always, for watching, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmannized.